Hi, we are live, even though it doesn't look live because she's breathing. Okay. Good morning.
Today, this is Joe Lerner with Legacy Real Estate Team, and he's just part of the larger group of military experts, active duty experts. But he is one of our investor experts. He's been in the business how long?
12 years, 13 years.
12 years. Okay. So, and tell us, what are granny flats? Everybody's talking about granny flats.
Sure. So the actual granny flat is, as the name implies, as the relatives get older, they're typically wanting to keep the family nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would build a structure, typically a separate structure from the home with its own entrance that the older family member could live in. It would have its own bathroom, its own kitchen, and as I said, it's a separate structure.
Right, but then grandma passed away, and now it's like, oh, this could be a rental unit, right?
So things have evolved. Whether it's kids who sort of boomerang back to home and they want an inexpensive place to rent and they can build a little structure, or you can become sort of a part-time landlord and have someone living in your backyard and collect some extra rent. Granny flats are definitely a way to increase density, and that's a big trend in our community as well as other cities across the country.
Yeah, so the state of California in passing these new granny flat laws, and a lot of places around the country, Minneapolis, Austin, lots of places, have now passed laws allowing all single family homes to be able to add a granny flat, which could be a rental unit. And in California, if you occupy at least one of the units, you can actually have two granny flats, a junior, they call it an accessory dwelling unit, ADU. So you have a junior ADU and then a full detached ADU in the back.
So if you're wondering what that might look like, if your home has a garage, you could convert the garage.
Mm-hmm.
You could go above the garage. If your lot size is big enough or allows for it, you could build onto your home and create a dividing space, or as we started with this granny flat idea, an accessory dwelling unit, a whole sole separate structure.
So if you're a buyer and you're looking at buying a regular single family home, what would that look like?
Well, again, lot sizes aren't as relevant because of some of the new rules. So it really comes down to thinking about, am I going to house hack, so to speak, in terms of how to cut up the home and make the most revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to or need a garage, then take that off the table and start looking at, does the lot allow for an easy structure to be built? What works best in my lifestyle if I'm going to invite someone else into my world?
Mm-hmm.
And then what can I do to maximize the rentability?
So what kind of rents are you looking at for like a garage conversion? I know it depends on the area.
Yeah, it'll depend on the area, but typically between $800 and $1,200 a month on the conservative side. And then some people have built out, 600 to 800 square feet above the garage or inner garage,
Mm-hmm.
which becomes like renting an apartment, and they're getting upwards of $1,500. And again, that depends on the area you go to in terms of density.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to live in La Jolla and you can't afford La Jolla, then maybe you'll find an accessory unit there that you could call home.
And what do the detached granny flats in the back? Let's say you have a 2-bedroom, 1,200 square foot,
Mm-hmm.
granny flat in the back.
Right. So depending on where you are, I've seen those rent for as much as $2,000 a month and maybe more in some of the coastal communities. Inland, it drops a little bit, but typically it's going to be $800 to $1,200 per room
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what you can expect in rent.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful because we've been working with some military active duty families where they go in and they buy the home using their VA,
Mm-hmm.
so 0 down payment, and then we actually quickly do, it's called a renovation refinance. We renovate them out of the VA because the VA only allows certain renovations. They'll allow you to do a garage conversion, but they won't allow you to do the detached.
Right.
So we'll build that all out.
That's
And
exciting.
and then at the end we'll do a rate and term refinance at the bottom, so your absolute lowest payment
Mhm.
and your VA certificate is freed up for your next purchase. So you've got
So you get started with no money down.
Right.
The whole process.
right. So it's a pretty amazing way to build 3 units on a single family home in
Right.
one fell swoop.
Right. And then for those who are guessing what that might cost, the average we're seeing in San Diego is $300 to $400 a foot
Mm-hmm.
to build these structures. So keep in mind, those are some big numbers. So working with a professional like Meredith and her team with the Loan Depot to understand where this takes you financially,
Mm-hmm.
with interest rates and the rent and how the two come together to afford building accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, it really does matter. It's interesting you say that because, you know, the average granny flat, detached granny flats, our clients are doing are about $200,000. And that sounds like a huge number, but it really comes out to be $1,000 per month. And how much can a detached granny flat rent for?
Right, you can get $1,500 for
minimum,
on the low end.
So you're just by building that, you're starting to earn income right off the
Create
bat.
the cash flow, and you increase the value of your overall property because of that as well.
It's a great strategy.
It
And
is.
then can you do that with other units, building multiple units on a property?
So I've seen that, so it depends, I guess is the right answer.
Yeah.
The R3 sort of zoning
Yeah.
puts a certain cap and limit,
Uh-huh.
but I've seen some creative people take a home and turn it into 3 beautiful units,
Yeah.
where each one is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath structure.
Okay.
So they're different,
Different concept.
every time.
It'll be good to talk about next time.
Yes.
Thanks, Joe, for joining.
My pleasure to be here.